Hello everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Today is 25th of October and let's start with the newspaper analysis for today. Guys, I would like to tell you that you can download explainer notes of this particular session from Telegram channel. Link for Telegram is given in description box in YouTube, and thank you so much for all the lovely comments to everyone who is watching live who have left their comments. Now, first of all, let's take overview of entire newspaper so that we can understand that which articles are important and relevant in today's newspaper for our exam. So here we have first page. So Bhutan and China make progress in border talks. So recently, guys, what has happened? 25th round of discussions has been held between Bhutan and China on the border talks. Okay, and in this capacity, both the countries are saying that they will demarcate their borders soon, and there have been a kind of a positive outcome in this particular capacity. Okay, now, then guys, after moving on, we have then day after quitting IAS, Odisha CM's aid takes up key roles. No need to go in that detail. Then we have these advertisements, etc. Then guys, moving on in city section also, largely the regional political issues have been there. Fine. Nothing much important, relevant has been given. So we will scroll on from here. Okay, and largely guys in the city or regional section, much relevant articles are not there. Secondly, if you have some different edition, let's say Chennai edition, Bangalore edition, Hyderabad or any other edition, this particular section tends to be different in all the regional newspapers. So we come to editorial section, and in editorial, first article that we have, an India-Canada bonding that is in danger of snapping. We'll take this particular article. Then guys, this article talks about that recently BJP, they have asked the, basically they have sent pracharaks who happen to be the civil servants, and all such kind of things have been provided. Okay, now again, I read the article, but exam related substances not there that much. Then we go down here, we have the present and future of Dalit politics. We'll take this particular article for examination. Then low ranked teams have done well in this cricket world cup. Okay, nothing again for exam has been given, so no need to go too much in this particular article. Then moving on the next page, mitigating tragedies in Himalayan region. We'll take this particular article for examination. Okay, then further moving on, lessons from extreme events over 31 years were 3.8 trillion dollars. So basically, guys, thus this particular article is saying that over the last few years, as climate extremes have increased, drought have increased, flooding have increased, it has led to a large number of losses. And if we take their cost, it comes to around 3.8 trillion dollars. Okay. Then further moving on, text and context, how Olympic cities are selected. We'll take this particular article for examination also. Then next page, we have understanding the components of a SIM cards, its functioning and working. Now, guys, the article is going in too much of unnecessary microscopic details that has been there. Okay. Then further, in this capacity, here we have an article, Center to introduce DNA face matching system at police stations across country. We'll take this particular article for examination. RSS chief cautions people against India, again anti-India feelings. All these things are there. Then, guys, assembly poll page, not needed for exam. If you have interest in political developments, you can read it, but for exam, no need to go too much in that detail. Then further, moving on. After that, we have here food labels to have QR code to help the visually disabled. We'll take this particular article. INB ministry cancels registration of 477 cable TV operators. Okay. Then further in this capacity, Supreme Court uses rare power to help a man fighting for postal job for 28 years. Now, basically, this particular case was of a 50-year-old man who got selected in 1995, who got selected in 1995 for his postal job, but was denied. He said this thing that he was selected as a postal assistant in 1995, but was not given the job. Now, in this capacity, Supreme Court had said that, see, now two important things are there. Two important things are there. Now, just okay. So, Supreme Court has said this particular thing that no one had any legal right to claim public employment. Okay. So, you don't have legal right to claim any public employment. Okay. But at the same time, in this capacity, this particular person should be given the job. Why? Because he was selected, then he has been dropped. So that is unfair. That is unfair. Okay. But there is no legal right to claim any public employment. Okay, but once you have been selected, then you have been dropped, then it becomes a discrimination. Okay, this is something that has been there. Now guys, here article 142 has been used by Supreme Court. Now what is article 142? Article 142 provides that Supreme Court can issue any order, any decree to do complete justice. So basically, whenever the Supreme Court goes and uses some whenever Supreme Court goes and brings some extraordinary kind of a measures, it will be using this article 142 always. So 142 is an open-ended and a very wide article which gives Supreme Court that in order to do complete justice, they can issue any order or a decree. Okay, that will be the case. Chalo, moving on in this particular capacity. Then guys, we have world page. On world page, Israeli airstrike kills more than 700 people in one day. Now this is very misfortunate and horrific thing that is going on every day. So many people are dying. But guys, everyday tolls, etc., you need not to follow. But the war should come to an end as soon as possible. European Union stop diplomat calls for humanitarian pause to Israel-Hamas war. Okay. Then guys, on world page, on business page, we have this article. World Bank's manga says geopolitics pose biggest but not only risk to world economy. Now see, right now we see that there are so many of the geopolitical crises going on in the world. Okay, we find that even there are two war, that is on one end Russia Ukraine war that is going on another end this Hamas Israel war is going on. After that, between China USA, there have been the geopolitical issues, there have been conflict between US and China, between Russia China on one hand and US are the divides. Now, all these particular things are impacting the global economy. They are impacting the global economy. After that, there is inflationary trend. Post-pandemic recovery is not up till now clear. So, in this particular capacity, World Bank President Mr. Ajay Banga had said that these things are going to impact world economy in a negative and in a very big capacity. Then below here we have one article. Artificial intelligence to help construction industry face challenges. We'll take this particular article also. Then we have the sports page. Okay, nothing much important has been given. Then guys, after sports page and last, there is one particular section that comes, that is science page. Now it is missing in most of the print editions, but in e-paper we have this and it is hidden towards the last. So sometimes there are some good articles that come, but sometimes the articles are not that much relevant. So today the article that we have is what separates classical and quantum chaos. What separates the classical and quantum chaos. So basically understand this particular thing, guys, that sometimes articles that have come, they are discussing core concepts of theoretical physics. Sometimes they're discussing core concepts of biology, medicine, etc. Now, if you read and if you see the questions that have been asked in the past, science and technology and application of science and technology, that is the section which is asked largely. So, too much of details in core concepts of computing, core concepts of physics, chemistry, that is outside the scope of UPSC. So, for that, no need to go and spend too much of effort. Okay. So this is about it. Okay. I hope that you have understood it. And now let's take all relevant articles one by one in detail. And one thing I have told you many number of times, guys, it is very important that you learn the art of skimming relevant articles from newspaper, because when we talk about newspaper, we find this particular thing that newspaper happens to be the document containing around 24-26 pages. Okay, so you cannot read every article. So you have to skim precisely so that you can complete your newspaper in 1 hour or less. Fine. So that is about it. And now let's discuss all relevant articles one by one in detail. So this is synoptic notes that I was telling you. You can download it and can follow it. All notes of this session are given here. Now let's discuss this one by one in detail. So we have a quotation of Nelson Mandela that we are going to take today. Nelson Mandela says, a nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but how it treats its lowest one. This is important. Now, dignitaries, important political personalities, VIPs, they can be treated good by any country. but how a country treats its downtrodden people, how it treat poor people, how it treat elderly people, how it treat minorities, that is important. So that is the parameter of a nation's greatness. That is a parameter of a nation's ethical well-being. So that where we need to see that. Even Gandhiji, when he talked about the idea of Antyodaya Sarvodaya, Gandhiji specifically in his idea of Antyodaya was en- uh, focusing on ensuring the development and growth of downtrodden people. So you can use this particular idea in GS paper number 4 ethics. You can use this in GS paper number 4 ethics. Okay. And guys, one more thing just I want to tell you guys here, that in last few days, actually from 15 or 20 days or so, we have received so many comments on the ethics batch, second ethics batch. So if there is really a need, please do write in the comment box, and if there are adequate number of responses, we'll try to see that what we can do on that particular front. Okay. Now moving on, how Olympic cities are selected. Now this is article from text and context section. Let's take this particular article. Okay. Now first of all we will take this particular article with respect to GS paper number 3, GS paper number 3, infrastructure, and in the GS paper number 2, find India's international initiatives. Okay. Now, first of all, let me tell you basic background information about this particular article that you should know. So, basically, what has happened recently, Prime Minister of India declared this thing that India might be hosting Olympics in 2036. Might be hosting Olympics in 2036. Now, this is the first time that India is going to host Olympics. Now, when we talk about 2036, okay, fine, there are few countries who have expressed their candidature for 2036. We are going to discuss that. There are five confirmed countries which are interested in hosting 2036 Olympics. Now, when we talk about Olympics in Asia, up till now, there have been only three countries that have hosted Olympic Games. That is China, South Korea, and Japan. And Japan is only Asian country which has hosted Olympics twice. First, it hosted in 1964, and second, it hosted in 2020. Now, when we talk about Olympic Games, fine, this particular thing is there that actually there are large number of scandals and controversies that are associated with Olympic game hosting. Why? Because it has been provided. Let me give you one example. So in 2010, India hosted Commonwealth Games. And in the Commonwealth Games, it was said that multi-thousand crore rupees of corruption had happened. A lot of misutilization of public fund has happened. Now, Commonwealth game is not that big event in comparison to Olympic game, that is. And it has been seen that countries which have hosted Olympics in past, they have built so much of unnecessary infrastructure in terms of Olympic stadiums, in terms of the accommodations, and now all these particular assets have become ghost assets, and billions of dollars have been lost. And this has also been questioned that whether the developing countries should host Olympics or not. That has been a very big question mark, because that crucial resource they could spend on some another important and crucial things. So therefore, hosting Olympics have always been a very controversial thing. Now, when we talk about hosting the Olympics, how countries are selected, you need not to go too much in detail, but little bit understanding we are going to take. So basically, under the old system of selecting countries, what will happen? All the countries who are interested in hosting Olympic Games, they will send their request to uh, the National Olympic Committee of a country. Will send a letter of interest. Will send a letter of interest to International Olympic Committee. Okay, and then a multi-year assessment process will be started. First of all, the countries and the cities who are interested in hosting Olympic Games, they will be send a questionnaire that how they are going to handle it, what type of resources they can allocate in terms of physical resource, in terms of financial resource. After that, what will happen? Scrutiny of these countries will be done, and then guys, 7 year in advance, countries and cities will be finalized. A 7 year time will be given to them so that they can prepare infrastructure, so that they can develop stadiums and all such kind of facilities. Now, in this old system, there was no focus on sustainability. There was no focus on ensuring that financially prudent decisions are being taken. Fine, unsustainable assets are not being built. No such focus was there. But actually, what has happened, Olympic Agenda 2020 has been adopted. Olympic Agenda 2020 has been adopted. At this Olympic Agenda 2020 focuses that Olympics should emphasize on few things. Number one, it should emphasize on flexibility, sustainability, and cost effectiveness of the venues of infrastructure that is being conducted. And it has adopted a new motto, that is, the games should adapt to the region. The region does not should not adapt to the games. Okay, if they are held, if they are being held in Asia, Olympic needs to metamorph as what in the Asian countries, according to them, it should adapt. Fine. This is the motto. Now, first of all, as we talk about these particular changes, this 7 year rule has been removed. 7 year rule has been removed. Now, the countries, they have been given a lot of flexibility. Some countries, let's say, need more time to prepare. For example, 10 year, 11 years, it can be given. Some countries are, let's say, ready and they can host Olympic within 3 4 years. That can also be taken. So this rigid timeline of 7 year, it has been removed. Secondly, guys, what will happen? There will be a lot of flexibility that will be given. For example, the games can be planned across different cities. Okay, it is not the compulsion that only in one city all the games have to be held. They can held across city, and even they can be held in conjunction with some another country. For example, X country and Y country, two countries in combination, they can host Olympics. Now, it has been provided that there will be a two-stage process, a continuous dialogue and a targeted dialogue. Now, what is a continuous dialogue? In the continuous dialogue, let's say I've told you that 2036 Olympic India wishes to host. So basically, India will be in talks with IOC, will send their letter of interest that we are interested, and basically formalities, modalities will be ironed out. And now, in this particular stage, multiple countries are in negotiation with IOC. So this is a continuous dialogue that will be taken up. Then, let's say out of 5 countries, one country has been selected. Then with that country, a targeted dialogue will be started, fine, which will focus on the basic details, that when they wish to hold Olympic, fine, what type of asset requirements will be there, what type of infrastructural requirements will be there. So that targeted dialogue will be started. Now, in post 2020 Olympic rules that have been changed, the focus will be given on sustainability of infrastructure, so that countries don't spend madly in those type of infrastructures which are unsustainable. Lot of financial resources should not be wasted. So here it has been provided that as far as possible, new venues should not be built. And if new venues are being built, they should be in line with the existing developmental plan of that particular city. For example, if city wanted to develop a stadium which will be used for other things only, then that stadium should be used and should be should be catered for Olympics. Also, there should be a long term justification. There should be a long term justification, fine, irrespective of the game. Post games also, whether that asset can be used or not. Further, it has also been provided that post 2030, whatever Olympics will be held, they should adhere to IOC's climate positive commitment. Okay, for example, stadiums or whatever infrastructure is there, they should not be large carbon emitting facilities. Okay, that is something that has been focused upon. Now, in this capacity, we have case studies. Fine. For example, Los Angeles. Fine. They have said that they are not building any new infrastructure for the 2028 games, Olympic games that they are hosting. And Paris also says this particular thing, that 2024 Olympic games that they are hosting, they will be using 95% of existing infrastructure, or they will use temporary venues. If new venues are needed, temporary venues. It has been said that temporary venues can reduce the wastage and financial burden up to 95%. So they are going to focus on that. Now, I told you that along with India, there are some other countries also who are interested in hosting 2036 Olympics. So We have India. Okay. Then apart from India, there is Mexico. Mexico. So Mexico, four cities of Mexico City. Okay. Fine. Then here we have the Guadalajara, then Monterrey, fine, Tijuana. All these cities are there. City, you need not to remember every specific city, but just countries you can keep in mind. So there is Mexico, Indonesia, Turkey, Poland, who are also interested to host Olympics. Now, India has expressed its candidature for 2036, but India has not finalized which specific cities Olympic will be hosted. So those cities have not been finalized. Okay, so that is all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to next article. Food labels to have QR, quick response code, to help the visually disabled people. To help the visually disabled people. Now, this particular article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2 social justice. GS paper number 2 social justice. Okay. Now guys, understand this particular thing, that when we talk about information, only availability of information is not going to solve the problem. Information needs to be accessible. Now, how accessibility problem comes? Let's understand this with the help of this particular article. So basically, as we talk about FSSAI, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, already it has made that food labels need to be mandatory at the packaging of every food product. For example, you go to buy a packet of chips. On that packet of chips, they have to display what ingredients have been used and what is nutritional information. For example, one packet of chips contains 500 and let's say 40 calories. These 540 calories, what is the component of sugar in that, what is carbohydrate, what is fat, what type of fat, what protein, all these things, they have to be mandatorily displayed on food items. Food labels are mandatory as per FSSAI. But many number of a times, people, for example, who are visually impaired, they cannot read those food labels. Okay, so for these people, information is available, but information is not accessible. Information is not accessible. And also, there is United Nations Convention on Rights of Person with Disabilities. United Nations Convention on Rights of Person with Disabilities. India has India has signed as well as India has ratified this United Nations Convention. Okay. Also, India has signed many other international protocols also to make accessibility for disabled people. For example, India has signed Incheon strategy. India has signed Incheon strategy. Fine. Then Vivaco framework. Vivaco framework we have signed. We have signed Incheon strategy. Okay. All these particular things provide that India has to ensure accessibility of disabled people in all the walks of life, including in information. Also, disabled people have to be provided accessibility. So now FSSA provides that on every food label there will be a QR code. There will be a QR code. For example, this QR quick response code will be there. Now, what will happen on this QR code? This QR code might redirect on a website, on a portal, and on that portal, through audio they will tell that this product contains 500 calories. 500 calories, they are 100 calories are derived from carbohydrates, 5 gram of sugar is there. So through audio this food label will be recited out through this QR code. By this, what will happen? The people who are visually disabled, they will also be able to know the constituents of a particular food label. Now FSSAI had said this particular thing. FSSAI has said this particular thing: ensuring inclusive access to information is a fundamental right to citizens, fundamental right of citizens. And guys, when we talk about Supreme Court also in multiple judgments, okay, for example, Kulwal versus Jaipur Municipal Corporation case, Bennett Coleman case, and multiple other judgments are also there, where Supreme Court has provided that right to know is a fundamental right. But disabled people, visually disabled people, are not able to exercise this particular right. So therefore, FSSAI, under its Food Safety and Standard Regulation 2020, has outlined the information to be included into the food labels. Okay, and now it has provided that this information should be available into the form of a QR code also. Now, this particular thing will also help to fulfill the obligation of right of person with Disabilities Act 2016. As per now, one more thing I want to tell you, this Right of Person with Disabilities Act 2016 was brought by India by replacing the 1995 Act on Right of Person with Disabilities. Why we replaced this? Now, why we replaced this 1995 Act? Because I told you, meanwhile, India signed United Nations Convention on Right of Person with Disabilities. Okay, so it recognizes the rights and needs of individuals with disabilities, fine, which and it emphasizes accessibility. Accessibility. Fine. So this is one very good and a positive example. You can use it as a case study. Okay. And in social justice, vulnerable section of society, disabled people are there. There, this particular article can be used. That is all about it. And now moving to next. Center to introduce DNA face matching system at police stations across country. Now, this particular article we will be taking with respect to GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, criminal justice system reforms. Criminal justice system reforms. Now, before going on in this particular article, let's take first of all some basic background information, and after that we are going to go into this article. What article is talking about? So, background information is this: that guys, what happened 1 year back, and if you are following newspaper analysis regularly, we have taken also many articles on this particular development also back. Now, what happened? 1 year back, India came out with Criminal Procedure Identification Act. Criminal Procedure Identification Act. And this Criminal Procedure Identification Act empowers police as well as it empowers the central agencies, investigating agencies to collect the biological body and measurement samples parameters of the people who are lodged in jail. This Criminal Procedure Identification Act, it provided that police and central investigation agencies can collect, they can store and can analyze physical biological samples. For example, measurement of a person's body such as a height, weight can be done, measurement of a person's arms, measurement of person's feet, their retina scan, okay, their retina scan can be taken, okay, their iris scan can be taken, and all this information can be stored by the central agencies. Okay, all this information can be stored. Now, in this particular line, now what government is coming out with, they are coming out to establish DNA and face matching system at around 1300 police stations across the country. So in 1300 police stations, face matching system will be there. Now, how this face matching system will be used? For example, let's say Mr. X was murdered. Mr. X was murdered. Okay. And there is investigation that is going on. There is investigation that is going on. And let's say three suspects have been arrested. Three suspects have been arrested. Now, these three suspects, their face will be matched with the existing database of criminals that is there with the government. And if one of them's face matches, we can know that this particular person has a criminal history. This person has a criminal history. These particular things can help later words into the investigation. Moreover, let's say when Mr. X was murdered, at that particular site, at that particular place, let's say there was one hair that was found. Now, from here, we can know the DNA of that particular person, or this hair might be of a person who was the murderer. Now, you have arrested these three people who are suspected. You can match this hair with these particular persons' DNA, and by that particular thing, we can get a help in better investigation. We can get a help in better investigation. So basically, across 1300 police stations, DNA and face matching systems will be deployed, which will be done under the Criminal Procedure and Identification Act. Identification Act. Now, in this particular capacity, logistics, connectivity, what type of instruments will be used, all such kind of things, they are being planned out. Now, National Crime Record Bureau, National Crime Record Bureau, it has been given the responsibility to analyze, to finalize the standard operating procedure that will be followed by police officials. Now, it is not the case that every person's DNA will be matched. Okay, in which cases DNA will be matched? What will be the safeguards that are to be used? Now, understand this thing. This will also come often. It will become controversial because there is the personal data protection bill that is there. right to privacy is already declared as a fundamental right by Supreme Court in Puttaswamy case. So there is a possibility that when a person's DNA information is being extracted and it is being stored, there is the privacy concerns that are there. So how to ensure that such concerns don't happen? So for that, a detailed standard operating procedure will be prepared by National Crime Record Bureau. Also, there is a dedicated domain committee that has been created by Ministry of Home Affairs to successfully implement or to implement without any controversy this criminal identification act. This is something that is going to happen. Now, guys, the states, they have been asked that they identify particular locations, particular police stations where they want to deploy these DNA matching and face matching facilities, and state government will submit back their proposal. Okay. Now, when we talk about this particular act, Criminal Identification Act, fine, it has replaced the Prisoners Act of 1920. Okay, and I told you that, see, in the old act, now Prisoner Act 1920, at that point of a time, iris scan, retina scan, all these technologies have not developed. So it was limited to capturing finger impression, footprints, photographs, all these things. Okay, but now better technologies are there. So for that, this Prisoner Act 1920 has been replaced by the Criminal Procedure Identification Act. And under this, now the face matching and DNA facilities are being deployed. So this is about all this particular about. This is all about this article. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to next article. An India-Canada bonding that is in danger of snap. Now we'll see this particular article under GS paper number 2, international relation. Within international relation, India-Canada relation will take it up. India-Canada relations will take this article. Now, I have told this exact thing many number of times to you. Okay, let's discuss that again. Basically, when we talk about relations between any two countries, I told you that you can take their relations on the basis of comparison of their political system, how deep their ties are. Okay, in that, irritants and low hanging fruits. Irritant and converges are two things that is important. Now, when we talk about India and Canada relation, we have seen that a new irritant has developed between India and Canada recently. First of all, what happened? Prime Minister of Canada made baseless allegations against India that India has played a role in killing of a Khalistani leader. There were no evidence, there was no supportory document that was furnished. Just this allegation has been made by Prime Minister. After that, what has happened? India tightened up. Okay, and in certain capacity, India said that India will not be willing to give visas to Canadians who want to come in India. Then India also said this particular thing, that because of excessive interference of Canada in internal matters of India, India is withdrawing the diplomatic immunity of some of the diplomats, and because of that, Canada called back 41 of their diplomats. Canada said that it is also the violation of Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. By the way, Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations in large detail we have discussed in Saturday. I'll not say large detail, but the detail that is necessary for exam we have discussed it. Now this article is saying that India Canada relations are on a downhill. And in this capacity, both the countries need to be careful. Both the countries need to have a cautious approach. Fine. Now, so article says this particular thing, that when we talk about India and Canada, people to people ties between India and Canada are very deep. There are large number of people of Indian origin who are actually living in Canada. And India is actually a prime origin country for immigrants to Canada. Now, there are people who have got citizenship of Canada, naturalized citizens, and the fine, so naturalized citizens. Indian people who got citizenship of Canada. Now, you might have already read in your Lakshmikant or in your polity that India is running the OCI scheme, Overseas Citizenship of India scheme, in which a kind of a lifelong visa is given to Indian people who are living in the recognized countries. So Indian people who got citizenship of Canada, they have the facility that they can access lifelong visa of India. At the same time, there are many permanent residents also who are living. Then there are temporary visitors who are there. In these temporary visitors, tourists, students, business delegates, all they will come. So large number of Indian people are there in Canada. And when we talk about Canada is one country where large Indian diaspora is living. And when we talk about Indian living in Canada, around 1.86 million people of Indian origin are living in Canada as per census of Canada 2021. And it is roughly around 5% of Canada's population. So 5% of Canada's population is constituted by people of Indian origin. Okay. Now, point is that between India and Canada, because of people of Indian origin, there have been a deep ties. Okay, moreover, when we talk about Canada and India, both are members of Commonwealth, as well as both are signatories of Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration Agreement. And as per this, both countries are under an obligation that they need to create conditions for safe, orderly, and regular migration. But now what is happening? As visas have been put on hold, okay, as there are kind of reservations in issuing the visas, the migration of people will get impacted. Migration of people will get impacted, which will go against the global compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. Okay. Moreover, it has also been provided that in past, development between India and Canada was going good. For example, in 2022, Canada agreed that it will remove restriction on the number of bilateral flights. So earlier there could be maximum 35 flights in a week between India and Canada. Now that restriction will be removed. Canada declared this thing. Also, this is something. Also, guys, in past there have been some events. For example, in 2014, stamp commemorating the 100th anniversary of the arrival of Komagata Maru was released by Canadian Post. Fine, so I'm pretty sure you might have read about the Komagata Maru incident in your history book. Let's say in your spectrum, you might have read it. So a 100-year anniversary stamp was released. Also, Justin Trudeau made an apology with respect to the Komagata Maru incident in 2016. So all these particular things showing that India-Canada relation is improving. But now this ban on visa, ban on visa, ugly exchanges that have happened between India and Canada. This is not good. So the relations between India and Canada are on a brink of snapping. So therefore, both countries need to ensure that they come together and they settle this particular entire issue in a settle in this particular issue in a manner which takes in account the long term consequences. Okay, and should ensure that they are not in violation of global compact on safe, orderly, and regular migration, and the SDGs also, which are on the safe migration. So this is all about this particular article. Fine. I hope, guys, that you have understood it. Now, moving on to next article. Okay, mitigating tragedies in Himalayan region. Mitigating tragedies in Himalayan region. So in past 1 week, there are multiple articles on Himalayan region system that has come. Now, first of all, this particular article, where it is going to be important, this article will be important in GS paper number 3 environment, GS paper number 3 environment, or ecology versus development. Ecology versus development. This article is going to be important. Right? Environment versus development. Now, recently, you have seen this particular thing that in Sikkim, there was a catastrophe that happened. What was a catastrophe? Glacial Lake outburst flood. Glacial Lake outburst flood. Now, what is this Glacial Lake outburst flood? I have discussed also with you, but let's discuss it again. So, basically, let's take, there is a big glacier, and as glacier is there, obviously ice will melt at a particular rate from this glacier. Now as this ice is melting, what happens? There are natural lakes that are made. There are natural lakes that are made, and these lakes, they hold water that is melting from these glaciers, and these lakes are held together by stone, silt, boulders, etc. Now sometimes what happens, the rate of this glacier melt, it will increase, and fine, there are many reasons. For example, glacier melting rate increased, or let's say there was cloud bursts that happened, or let's say there was a sudden rain, torrential rain in very less time that happened. What will happen? In less time, a lot of water will come in this particular lake, and this particular lake might fail. This particular lake might fail, and as lake will fail, in few minutes of time, millions and millions of liters of water will drain out, and then when it water will reach to lower reaches, There it will destroy habitations, it will destroy villages. If there is some hydropower project, it will be destroyed. This is called as glacial lake outburst flood. So a glacial lake which was formed by collecting the water from glacier, this glacial lake has outbursted, and that outburst has led to a flood. So glacial lake outburst floods. And these GLOF events have happened quite frequently in past. Just 3 years back in Uttarakhand also, this glacial lake outburst flood event happened. Now, they are natural, but as the climate change is happening, as we are tempering with the Himalayan ecosystem, these events have become more rapid and they have become more severe. So this is something that happened recently, Sikkim. Okay, so Sikkim glacial lake outburst flood happened. Apart from that, many other incidents have happened. For example, in Himachal Pradesh, we have seen just a couple of months back that there were repeated landslides, repeated floodings that have happened. Now, article says this particular thing that any hazard in mountains, it will have a cascading fashion. It will occur in a cascading fashion. What is cascading fashion? One thing leading to other, other thing leading to yet other, then other thing leading to yet other. So what happens? For example, for example, let's say heavy rain. Heavy rain will lead to flood. Flood will lead to landslide. Okay. So one event led to other. This is the hazard having a cascading effect. So heavy rainfall will lead a landslide. Okay. Heavy rainfall can even lead to a glacial lake outburst flood. Okay, and that will lead to flash floods. So these are also such kind of a thing. Now, article is saying this particular thing that actually predicting these particular kind of events is sometimes very difficult because this is very erratic. We don't know how nature will work tomorrow. But over the years, many such improvements have happened. For example, National Disaster Management Authority (NDMA), it has led a multi-agency preparatory mission, and it has deployed solar powered automated cameras, monitoring equipment, which transmits weather data 250 times a day. And by having so much frequent weather data, we can know that what are temperature conditions, what are rainfall conditions there. And on that particular basis, we can predict whether there will be an extreme event in 1 or 2 or coming days or not. So this is something that has happened. Now, it has been provided by the article that recently it was recorded by monitoring equipment that is in high Himalayas, that what actually has happened, temperature which is there in the high Himalayas, it is higher than normal. Basically, it is higher than normal. It is higher than normal. Let's say normal temperature is, let's say, 1 degree Celsius, but actual temperature is 0 to 5 degree up above 0 to 5 degree above than the normal. For example, normal is 0. Now temperature of 3 degree, 4 degree, 5 degree is being reported, which is above than the normal. Now this particular thing might lead to long term and even immediate impact on glaciers. Okay. Now article further says this particular thing that Himalayan region, it is susceptible to hydrometeorological challenges, excessive rain, such as these kind of challenges, tectonic challenges. We know this particular thing, still Himalayas are rising. And Himalayas sit on a fragile zone in terms of its tectonic stability. So earthquakes, etc., are very frequent in Himalayas. Then climate, human-induced mountain hazards. Just 2 days back, we have discussed one article where we have seen that now it has been instructed by the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change that Himalayan states need to do assessment of carrying capacity. So when carrying capacity is increasing, okay, what happened? Human-induced hazards also become severely disturbing. Now, further, article is saying this particular thing that today the multitude of glaciers that are there, fine, how they are melting, fine, how they are becoming unstable. Okay, this has to be monitored, but at the same time, it becomes difficult also. Now, article says this particular thing that actually what is the need of the hour? Need of hour is to have an integrated, multidisciplinary effort across different institutions. Okay, different institutions, center government, state government. Okay, now national National Remote Sensing Center and its Glacial Lake Atlas of 2023 had provided how resolution data about the glaciers and their conditions through the remote sensing. And by that, we can monitor the spatial change. Okay, change that is happening in glaciers, the water that is melting. Okay, all these changes can be monitored because of the glacial lake atlas information of 2023. At the same time, Central Water Commission is conducting hydrodynamic assessment of high risk lakes and high risk areas. Their water flow is being checked and all such things. Then NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, is providing real time assistance to the states with respect to the technical overview, risk zonation. For example, this zone is moderately in the risk of glacial lake outburst flood. This region is high in risk. Find that there might be a big possibility that it can face the GLOF. So such risk donation is being done by NDMA for the states. So point is that in this capacity, multiple bodies, multiple institutions have come together, and we need to have such effective response in order to deal with challenges of Himalayan region. Okay, so this is guys all about this particular article. Now, the present and future of Dalit politics. The present and future of Dalit politics. Now, guys, this article you can just read for your social justice GS paper number 2, caste politics in India. Now, article is talking about a few things. Article says this thing that when we talk about Dalit politics, participation of Dalits in political processes, it has increased because of emergence of certain regional parties, such as such as Republican Party of India, Bahujan Samaj Party, fine, Uthia Tamilgam PT, okay, Praja Rajyam Party, fine. Many such regional parties have emerged, which have given more political space to Dalits. But this article says that nowadays what is happening, these political parties, they are being gradually weakened. Their leaders, what they are doing, their leaders, what they are doing, they are joining mainstream national political parties or other political parties. Support base for this Dalit political parties are reducing. New people are not getting associated. Even these political parties are not giving much space to grassroots leaders. All such kind of a thing is being asked. So now a question is being asked that is there any future of independent Dalit politics in India? Fine. Is there any future about these political parties? Okay, so this is something that has happened. Now, we have seen this particular thing that actually these parties have played an important role, and on national landscape in politics, they have given the scope to Dalit people's participation, and in a way, Dalit empowerment has been held by these particular political parties. But now there is the decline in their organizational capacity, electoral performance. They are not able to get vote bank, they are not able to get number of seats, their importance has declined. Even I told you that Dalit leaders are either moving to dominant regional or national political parties and are just fighting on elections on the ticket of the national political parties. Now, what are the reasons that their decline is happening? Now, their reasons are multiple. Number one, over the last 70 years there is percolation of education at grassroots that has happened. Percolation of education at grassroots that has happened. Because of that particular thing, what happened? Affirmative action reservation was given to Dalit people. They are now better educated comparatively to what was the situation 75 years back. Now they are better educated. Now they are in government jobs. Okay, because of affirmative action reservation, now Dalits, they aspire for a proper space in politics. They aspire for a space in national politics in national parties and not in specific parties. Fine. Dalit parties, they want the space. Okay. The next thing that has happened is that independent Dalit political parties are unable to respond to the changing aspirations and identity. What has happened? What has happened? Basically, basically over the years, we have seen this particular thing that grassroots leaders, they did not got political space. There were few families or a class of leaders who just only got the space. This response have not been provided. New aspirations of youth are not being met. This is the reason that they are moving to the national parties or other mainstream parties. These problems have to be resolved as early as possible. Okay, that is all, guys, about it. I hope that you have understood it. And now we have one article here from the business page. AI, artificial intelligence to help construction industry face challenges. Now, guys, I don't know whether you are aware of this particular development or not, but in China, already 3D printed buildings have become a kind of a normal occurrence. There was one development few years back where in 17 or 18 days they constructed a 54 floor building, and that was not just only the structure, it was a fully operational building. You will ask the question that how in 17 18 days a 54 floor building was constructed. It is because that most of the panels, most of the parts of that particular building were prefabricated and then they were just arranged. They were just arranged. Now, you might be knowing about the 3D printing. So today, 3D printing is being used in tissue reconstruction. It is being used in making the building blocks. Okay, fully fabricated building blocks can be made by 3D printing. And at the same time, AI used with 3D printing can help a lot in construction sector. Can help a lot in construction sector. So AI, 3D printing and robotics, AI, 3D printing and robotics, they are going to change the landscape of construction sector. Article provides that when we talk about construction sector, construction industry contributes to 13% of global GDP. And there is going to be a huge growth in construction sector. Construction sector will grow at CAGR, combined annual growth rate of 11%. And it will become from $8.32 trillion to 17, okay, to 17 trillion by 2029. So compound annual growth rate of construction sector is going to be 11%. Right now it is contributing in 13% of global GDP. And in this capacity, AI will further boost the industry productivity by 1% to 1.5%. Now, today we see construction sector, it always has faced a lot of problems. For example, labor shortage, aging workforce. India does not have this problem, but in West, there is aging workforce, which is not fit to work in construction sector. So there, robotics, AI and 3D printing is going to lead construction sector. Okay, cost overruns, project delays, poor project management. All these particular things can be resolved by better automation and by usage of AI and robotics and 3D printing. So this is something where it is going to create the new and the next disruption. So you can use such kind of a references in your examinations. Fine. That is about it. And now let's take the main practice question for today. So today's main practice question, it reads, India and Canada, India and Canada have long-standing bilateral relationship based on shared democratic values and strong people-to-people contacts. But the current state of Canada-India diplomatic relation has evoked a mountain of uncertainty comment. GS paper number 2, 10 marks. Okay. So that is all guys about it. And with this, we come to an end to the today's session. I hope guys that you have understood. So that is all for today. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.